How's that the audience feedback influence your acting decisions?
I think that audience feedback is one of many things that goes into it. One of many things, because for a fan to give feedback, the fan is ultimately the person that watches the series. So their feedback is so valuable for that reason. But the challenge with receiving feedback from fans is they don't see the whole process. So I think while the fans have definitely altered my view of the industry and definitely provided me information in how to act, it is definitely something you have to take with a grain of salt because it is kind of like they're only able to see part of the process. But to answer your question about what has changed about my acting since kind of speaking to the fans, I think definitely a priority on um, providing the fans content that has something unique to it. And something the fans really appreciate is when you add a little bit of flavor to it. When you give it that second dimension, that little bit of kind of extra value to the character, another dimension, whether that's the character has an objective that we don't quite get, whether they give a look at a certain time, something to make it so that the character is not kind of like a brick wall. So, in terms of how I've manipulated my character, I've made sure that in every story I find moments to give that emotion. So, although my kind of leading hero might be established very early on as stoic, as cold, and as kind of like pretty much a statue for all intents and purposes. But when he has that conversation with the female lead in a private space, I make sure that in those scenes that we really see the emotion, that we see the care. Because as much as the leading male is written as stoic, the audience has kind of shown me that they want to see him as a protector. Not just as a hero, not just as someone who comes in, saves the day, and makes a big song and dance about it, but someone that genuinely can provide emotional support to the female lead when they have those private moments to show how he sees the female lead as special, as someone who he kind of like is genuinely bonded with, rather than him seeing the female lead as just an object or someone for him to just kind of pick and be like, okay, you're mine now. So definitely showing that emotional care and that big kind of shift between how he treats the general population, all the other characters, and how he specifically treats the female lead. I have a big contrast in my characters for that.
Yes.